Hey friends, welcome back to Midweek as we are continuing through our journey of knowing Jesus, where we're just talking about the practical things that we put into relationships that make them thrive, whether they're marital relationships, relationships with family, friends, coworkers, whatever it may be. Relationships are super important. I mean, two of the greatest commands that Jesus tells us about are to love God and to love each other. And the reason he tells us to do these things is because if you do them well, if you love God with your everything and you love people with the same, relationships happen. And so if we can take the things that are practical in relationships and apply them to our passion, our zeal for God, I wonder if our relationship with him will grow stronger each and every day. And so we've talked about a few things, and hopefully you've kind of put some of these things into practice to just see them play out. I know that they work in the physical relationships that we have, the relationships with your spouse, family, friends, coworkers, and such. We know that these principles, when we apply them to those, always make a better relationship at the end of the day. I mean, who doesn't like someone putting in effort to spend time with them, putting in an effort to make the relationship greater? And I wonder if we put these principles into practice with our relationship with God, we'll get such a richer experience as we draw closer to him in each and every Bible study, each and every Sunday morning service, each and every devotion that we come, every prayer we pray, that we long for his heart. And so today, what we're going to talk about in this midweek is the concept of exclusivity. Now, you may be thinking, now, isn't the relationship with Jesus for everyone? Doesn't God love everyone? Yes. But we need to talk about what this looks like to be exclusive. And so in a relationship, exclusivity matters, especially if it's a romantic relationship. I mean, imagine that you go on a date with your significant other and they just pose the question to you that, hey, I'd like to see other people, but I like what we have going on here too. But I just want to explore other options to make sure you're the one for me, or whatever it may be. Imagine this being your spouse. She comes to you or he comes to you and says the same thing. Hey, I really like what we have here. I love the family that we've built, but I'd like to go explore some options just to see if this is something that's going to be lasting. I mean, nobody would settle for that, right? And if you do, then your relationship is probably on rocky ground already anyway. But nobody would settle for that kind of relationship. Everybody wants exclusivity, even in friendships. I mean, we might call it selfishness, but deep down, we all desire to have that. Like that, we want people to desire to be with us. You know, it's cool to have a group of friends, but we like to be the center of that group, the center of that attention in a good way, not necessarily always selfishly. And I think in the relationship we have with God, exclusivity matters. And what this looks like in the context of what I'm talking about is like breathing. And what I mean by that is when we breathe, God designed our bodies to take in so much stuff. The oxygen and all the stuff that comes with it. As we breathe in, it navigates through our bodies, and then we have to exhale as well. And in that process of exhaling, we are letting out all the poisonous gases, the toxins, all those things that could be harmful to our body. God created an intricate design for you and I to live. And if we use this concept of breathing to understand the idea of exclusivity, I think we're going to get a better experience knowing God. And so what are the things that you breathe into your life spiritually? I mean, think about this. I mean, look at what Jesus says in Luke chapter 9. He's talking to people about what it looks like to follow him, because everyone's big question is, what do we need to do to be saved? And Luke gives a great description of how Jesus answered this question in his gospel. And he also shows this through his other book, the book of Acts, where this question, this desire of what do we need to do to be saved? What do we need to do to have a proper relationship with Jesus? So let's have Jesus set that standard. And he talks about an exclusive relationship. Here's what he says in Luke chapter 9, verse 23. And he said to all, if anyone would come after me, let him deny himself and take up his cross daily and follow me. For whoever would save his life will lose it, but whoever loses his life for my sake will save it. And he goes on to describe what that looks like. But you see the idea of exclusivity. And what we're talking about here is the idea of saying no. You have to be meticulous in your relationship with Jesus and with others about learning to create boundaries, saying no to the things that are pulling your attention away. John says in 1 John that there are three big temptations that Satan likes to use to pull you off track, right? The sins of the eyes, the sins of the flesh, and the passions of life, the pride of life. And so those are three big elements, which basically covers you as a person. What are you looking at? You have to be willing to say no to the things that are drawing your desires through your eyes, the things you're lusting after. What is your flesh searching for? What are the emotional connections that you're building and creating? Sometimes you're going to have to be able to say no, and maybe in your heart, you just don't want to be confrontational. And so maybe you know that somebody's coming on strong, or that there's something happening that is pulling you away from your relationship with God, but you just don't want to be confrontational. And so you have a hard time creating that boundary, or at least enforcing it. And Jesus says, if you want to be my disciple, if you want to have a relationship with me, you have to be willing to say no. You have to deny yourself. And that is so hard at times, isn't it? But what exactly is Jesus talking about here? Well, the Bible talks about in several places as we start to learn and navigate what this means. The first one comes from Psalm 97, verse 10, and here's what it says. Oh, you who love the Lord. That would be all of us, right? This is our desire, is to draw and have this relationship that we have with the Lord. And he says, oh, you who love the Lord, hate evil. Now that's exclusive language, right? We can't be on both sides of this. Paul talks about this in the book of Galatians, and we can't be on both sides. We can't love God and love evil. It just will not happen, and God does not stand for that. He says, if you want to have a relationship with me, you have to exclusively remove yourself from evil. You have to hate it. I mean, that's the language that's being used here. It's strong, I know, and you may come from a background where hate isn't in your vocabulary, but this is the Bible we're talking about here. This isn't me telling you to hate. This is what the Bible says. If you want to have a relationship with Jesus, it has to be exclusive, where hating evil is paramount. And so we can continue further. Look at Proverbs chapter 8, verse 13. It says this, the fear of the Lord is hatred of evil. Now, we've heard this before, to fear the Lord. The fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom. We see all this stuff. And so in order to have wisdom, we have to fear the Lord. And what Solomon's writing here is that in order to fear the Lord, you must hate evil. You can't have both. You can't fear the Lord, respect what he has over your life, and respect who he is in your life, the position you have with him, and yet accept evil for what it is. It just doesn't work that way. Now, you may say, well, that's all Old Testament. Well, let's fast forward here. Look at Romans 12, verse 9. And here's what Paul says. Let love be genuine. Abhor what is evil. Hold fast to what is good. Love one another with brotherly affection, and outdo one another in showing honor. So Paul takes this not just in the relationship that we have with Jesus, but he takes this into the relationship that we have with people. He brings both context into this situation. He says, let your love be genuine. And a genuine love makes it look like you hate evil. And I fear that our problem in the church sometimes is we want to say that we want a relationship with Jesus, but we're having an affair with what is evil. We are lurking in the shadows and having these moments where evil is creeping in, where sin is destroying, and we don't hate evil nearly as much as we think we do. I have some friends that sometimes I think are a little bit extreme, and when they call out some things, we went to Bible college together and all stuff like that, and it's like they won't participate in this and won't participate in that because this is involved. Or you may have people tell you you need to boycott this big business because they support some political thing that you're against. And at first, those kind of people were annoying to me until I really started understanding the concept of what it looks like to hate evil. And in their mind, they go, why would I want to go even entertain something that I know I don't want to be trapped in? And I appreciate that now with the wisdom that I've gained over the many years that I've been out of Bible college and studying the scriptures. And sometimes I wish that I could have that same passion for hating evil in my life. Don't you? I mean, I just wish that I could look at sin and just be disgusted by it like God is. God doesn't hate you, he hates evil. And that's what God's asking us to do. If we truly want to have a relationship with Jesus, if we want to get to know him better, know him the way that God the Father has intended for us to know him through Jesus, we have to deny ourselves. And denying ourselves sometimes means we have to exhale. We have to purge out the things, the toxins that are destroying our life. And most of the time, it's hard to let that out because these are things that we desire. They're things that we enjoy. And so every time you take a breath, I hope that you're reminded that as you breathe in, God has given you life. And in order for that life to be complete, you have to start letting the toxins out. And as you exhale, may you always be reminded of who you are in Jesus. He loves you. He desires you. He wants nothing more for your life than for you to just live abundantly. But that requires you having the ability to stay exclusive. So friends, I pray for your relationship with Jesus, that be paramount in all of your life, that be the focus of everything that you do. And with that relationship, it spreads to the people in your life. Because here's what I can guarantee you, is if you focus on Jesus and you make him your priority, the relationships you have with others will naturally grow to be better and better as well. Friends, I hope that you have a great week, and we'll see you next time.